the form of the missiles. The devolving missiles that kind of devolves all of your death rattles and disables the ability to chain them together. We'll see if Nalguidan can overrun the death rattle Demon Hunter as we have seen it a couple times. DreadEye, the opening hand here is not looking super great. It's going to go for a full mulligan. And Nalguidan's side, he could keep a couple of these cards, given that they're low cost. But keeping all of them is probably not something that he wants here. Throws away everything. It's all in for the cards that he needs, whether it's the Inner's Flow, the Deck of Lunacy, and the card draw.
Hits Deck of Lunacy. Nicely done. And some good follow-up to the Deck of Lunacy too, right? Apexis Blast and Refreshing Springwater. Those are two of the cards that you love on the other side. Oh boy. I'm curious where Nalguidan wants to go with this. If he wants to play Encounter's Flow into Deck of Lunacy or hold on to Deck of Lunacy and then play the Encounter's Flow post Lunacy to discount the already transformed cards. Okay, there you go. Made the decision fast.
It's not a terribly complicated decision. To play Encounter's Flow on 2. Yeah, you don't get the full mana on a lot of the spells that you want to upgrade, but it's still perfectly fine. Even advisable to a certain extent if you feel like you're going to need that healing against the big bursts from the Inquisitor at the top end of these Deathrattle Demon Hunter decks. And now Nalguidan can go for the Wombo combo. Coin into Deck of Lunacy. Welcome to playoffs, DreadEye.
Yep.
Your stat.
Welcome to Nalguidan's Mage is more like it. Nalguidan actually has had an incredibly mediocre season with his Mage. Just a pretty abysmal win rate. In fact, he's relying completely on Deck of Lunacy to carry his win rate. It's pretty bad right now. It's something like 29 and 11. I mean, just atrocious when you consider the caliber of Mage player he's been in the past. 29-11 that's small ball.
Yeah, not even a full 75% win rate. It's pretty embarrassing, if you ask me.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
I think it largely has to do with some of the lines that he takes, though. You know, Nalguidan was one of the players who was very insistent in the beginning of the season that players aren't playing Deck of Lunacy fast enough, that they feel like in certain matchups that they need the burn, right? Say against, like Warlock, for example. You'd be like, oh, this is a matchup where you can totally just use the fireballs and the burns. And it's totally right, and in the sense that you want to be able to get that elimination. But Nalguidan's also in situations like that said, hey, I'm just going to pull the trigger on Deck of Lunacy, even if I don't have the burn in hand. And also gets there a lot of the time. And I think that's, some of the small little decisions that have profound impact on his numbers. That's why I think he's been able to get a huge amount of these wins and win such a large percentage of these games.
He's also just realized the whole season that Deck of Lunacy is still good, where a lot of players are catching up. No Hands had an insane win rate through Specialist, right, on Mage. And recently, it's just starting to falter. Maybe because Deck of Lunacy, maybe not. Maybe because he's running into counter lineups, but we'll see how that... Well, I mean, I was going to say we're going to see how that impacts him, but he's out of the playoffs, so we're not going to see how it impacts him.
He'll be back next season.
Yeah, Nalguidan. Yeah, back next season. Finished in first place. Got to feel good about that. Nalguidan got a good hand to follow this up. DreadEye, he's kind of just playing a thing every turn, and that's honestly all he can do. That's all this deck does until they get to the Blackthorn, Inquisitor, N'Zoth mana points. Just kind of playing your highest tempo card each turn, hoping it gets there.
Neat Nalguidan in the meantime, playing all of his burn onto minions. Does not get anything great off the Apexis Blast. DreadEye is loving it. How many times have we seen this? Encounter's Flow, Deck of Lunacy, and then a bunch of nothing. But it just takes one draw for everything to turn around. If Nalguidan finds a high impact AoE card, can easily start going the opposite direction. So while DreadEye is clapping now, I worry, TJ. Hearthstone Karma is a very real thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And you just don't want to. You don't want to invoke the wrath of the Innkeeper.
Well, there's expendable performers. That's from Nalguidan's perspective, maybe good enough. From our perspective, I think it will be clear because there's 7 health on board right now, and it'll be 4 immediately after with the Ectoplasm.
Yep, the Ectoplasm summoning the Adventurer, one of the new cards from the Mid-Set expansion. The Adventurers have random traits from a small selected pool, anything from taunt, spell damage to lifesteal.
Enjoy your fun.
Nicely done. Has some follow-up too. Wastes a recruit, but absolutely fine. Outside of the, oh man, the stepper, the stilt stepper. Heck, why can't I remember?
Oh. Fortunately, can't
Fell Rattler.
activate the Fell Rattler. Yeah.
Yeah, Fell Rattler. Stilt stepper. What the heck? That's the 4-1.
It's a draw
gives your
card
hero
if you
attack.
play it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why I thought it was that. It doesn't even look anything like it. Yeah, now Nalguidan gets to make these trades before the Fell Rattler Deathrattle goes off.
Tidal Surge. So Nalguidan has a couple of ways to go about this. The first thing is that Nalguidan could simply greed, right? Like doesn't have to clear, he can clear some of this. They can just play like Cloak of Shadows, let Nalguidan or let DreadEye extend further onto the board, then try to go for a sweeping AoE the following turn. The other is just to respond immediately to what DreadEye does, and then try to save, Cloak of Shadows for when he feels like DreadEye is trying to kill him, and combo it that way. This does look like something similar to a Soul Mirror setup to me. Okay, Bladestorm instead. That also works. Use Tidal Surge, eliminate Blackthorn, heal up some life.
Yeah, it's not bad. Used a lot of resources to be able to get this done, but especially when you play in Characters Flow into Deck of Lunacy, you have so much card draw in the deck. So much potential card draw in the deck, I suppose.
That's so big.
It ain't sticking, unfortunately.
It's not, and Nalguidan has development behind it. He has the ability to play Shadow Word Ruin. I think he's considering if DreadEye has N'Zoth on the following turn. Like, if I kill this, then he plays N'Zoth, what does the board look like? Which is totally fair. And again, something that he can greed for, right? He could play, say, the Cloak of Shadows, and DreadEye can't attack him in any capacity. And then try to wait for another turn and then use Shadow Word Ruin or Soul Mirror. These are options at his disposal. So I think just go for it anyways. I think because he has Soul Mirror, he feels a lot better about the N'Zoth follow-up. Oh my goodness.
He's probably got a hero power, and then Fishy Flyer, and then trade the Deathrattle from the Fishy Flyer in and hope that the Inquisitor is going to stick on an empty board.
Demons? Demons.
As
Yeah.
brutal as that sounds.
I think that makes sense to me. So, a hero power, pop Divine Shield on the Guardian, attack with the Fishy Flyer, play the Deathrattle minion, float half your mana. Hope that your opponent doesn't have anything. The good news is Nalguidan has not been drawing cards. So he's just playing the assortment of Deck of Lunacy cards that he's drawn.
Time grows short.
But I just gotta make this pretty rough play. Hope with Illidar Inquisitor 6 next turn, and then after that hope for, I guess, Skull of Gul'dan, right? suppose it's something. Oh, wait, that's supposed to be DreadEye.
Gracious. All of Gul'dan.
Oh, jeez.
Doesn't draw strong cards right now. But they're all reactive cards to deal with what DreadEye can do.
And they're all incredibly cheap. So he'll be able to fit in as much as he wants in a single turn, essentially.
Oh, okay. Spirits. It's so big.
That's nice bit of reload. And DreadEye does have some bursts in hand with Double Fury. That's 9 damage for 3 mana with a hero power. That's pretty good. Can't fit it all in with N'Zoth, which is the only way to get back.
So now that he has Brawl, it feels like he can use Soul Mirror to clear and then play the second Libram of Hope.
Yeah, and then Auspicious Spirits.
And then Auspicious Spirits, yep. That seems like the obvious play to us. Is there anything else that a little more hidden but could potentially be better?
Is there any
value?
Want some more value from Soul Mirror, I guess?
Yeah, and this is like a play that I've sort of been advocating for actually a couple turns now, right? Which is like to utilize Cloak of Shadows and let your opponent extend further onto the board. But he has chosen to do it a little bit later, and I think that Nalguidan's decision to draw 3 cards, do nothing, then Cloak of Shadows do nothing, is starting to worry DreadEye a little bit.
Yeah. He didn't really extend, though. He played a card that drew 2 cards and then just held, and now Nalguidan's in the same exact position.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't feel like he can, right? Like, just look at his hand quality right now. Look at how many cards remaining in his deck. He might feel like this might come down to a grind. Auspicious Spirit summons. Skeletal Dragon.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, Runaway Blackwing. Oh, it's so good.
Just tons of stats.
At least DreadEye gets some tutus.
And quality is a very big problem right now. Felrattler will deal Deathrattle and also deal 4 damage. Got 4 damage each from the Fury. So in terms of things that he could do, I mean, DreadEye can answer part of this board.
Yeah.
It's not super promising, though, right now. And part of the issue is that Felrattler and the Renowned Performers just barely don't clear off the 2 of these minions with the Fury, I think. Because Felrattler does 4, Renowned Protector does 3, and then the 2 Furies do 8. That's just a little bit under from clearing both, I think.
Skeletal Dragon's the one with probably the higher priority, just because it's continuously getting value for Nalguidan. But it also just feels kind of bad to leave him an 8/8. He does have the 2 taunts in the way, which is fine, plus some taunts loaded up in the Renowned Performer.
Oh, that's what you think. Until...
Oh, jeez.
I mean, there's a couple of ways Nalguidan can choose to go about this. Even finding the totems, runic carvings to be able to come out and play. Storm Strike, 11, Thunderstorm to clean up the rest. Playing Blackwing. I mean, this is lights out.
Yep.
This is why maybe fundamentally not playing a deck of Lunacy just gives you less options. Okay.
I mean, that is the best draw. I don't think there's... Nope, he's dead. I was going to say, I don't think there was a taunt unless it was Renowned Performers, but I forgot if Renowned Performer had a tribe or not. It does not.
Nope.
Getting back from N'Zoth. And he doesn't play the Cultist, which means that no way to get a taunt back. He was leaving 9 power up on that board no matter what, even with N'Zoth. So a little bit of a rough game for DreadEye to kick things off, and it does feel like this is probably one of the worst decks to fight against Deck of Lunacy with, because you don't have any unfair things to match it, right? Usually you want to be able to have the ability yourself to have insane discounts or insane burst damage. And even though Deathrattle Demon Hunter does have decent burst damage, it's not insane burst damage. It's not like this thing where you can just hold on to damage for the entire game and then just go off. You are reliant on having or sticking a board at some point in the game. You just couldn't get it done against the power of Libra of Hopes.
Yeah, just want to remind you about that moment when DreadEye was clapping. He was super happy to see the 1-1 come out of the Apexis blast from Nalguidan's side, and I said, hey, just be careful. You know, like, Deck of Lunacy Mage is a real good way of lulling you to a false sense of security, and I think you saw exactly what we meant by that, because shortly afterwards, DreadEye got destroyed by this Mage deck.
Yeah. And
you can't even say that DreadEye drew poorly compared to Nalguidan. I mean, he played almost all of his power cards. He played both of his Illidar Inquisitors, played Deathspeaker Blackthorn, he drew N'Zoth. His deck just wasn't fast or good enough to beat the Mage that hit the Deck of Lunacy. To be fair, not many decks are when you're able to do something like that. So it's not necessarily an indictment on the DreadEye, but also just to show you why Nalguidan's lines of playing the Deck of Lunacy from the very beginning of the season has been paying off in spades. Let's take a look at his Control Priest coming up for game number 2.
Yeah, it's a kind of middle-of-the-road Control Priest. It has a mix of anti-aggro and like late-game power. It's not running. It is running like Sousy Scoundrels, but it's not running Cthulhu and Ysera. It's got some greed, but really quite low curve for what you're trying to do as a priest. One caveat is that it's very minion heavy. I mean, if you look at 3 mana and above, there's 2 Apotheosis, 2 Palm Reading, and a Hysteria, and that's it. The rest is just straight minions. So we've seen this type of priest deck run into some issues where if their random generation effects don't also pick up the ability to kind of curate their hand with powerful spells, then they're just playing a minion every turn, and it can be pretty tough to gain back tempo at any point in the game, and that's not the position you want to be in as a priest. And against Control Warrior, I mean, there's a Cthulhu on the side of DreadEye and no Cthulhu on the side of Nalguidan, but there is a Mutinous and Devourer. However, Mutinous Devourer is not going to be able to eat the Cthulhu, most likely. There's still some potential if it hits like Silas or one of the other big minions, like maybe like a Kargath Prime or something that allows Nalguidan to like catch up in fatigue. Maybe it can matter, but I feel like this matchup's going to be a tough one for Nalguidan. DreadEye just has kind of anti-control checked.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Control Warrior has a ton of tools, but you also can't discount the fact that Priest has just a ton of shenanigans to disrupt their opponents. You know, I'm not even looking beyond the fact of what you just said, TJ. Mutinous is a big deal, because then Nalguidan, let's say he curates his Raised Deadpool to do something just like that, and it's just Mutinous repeatedly coming back and just eating every card. This happened to me one time on ladder, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and I was just blown away. I was just like, I ended up winning the game because I think the Priest was memeing a little too hard and tunneling on that, but it was something that caught my eye of just like what could end up being super impactful. And we did see a little bit of that yesterday too, TJ, when Muzzy was playing the Underlight Angling Rod, which gives you a Murloc whenever you attack. It's a Paladin weapon. And he had 2 Mutinous, and he almost single-handedly won the game from that.
Yeah, it took a lot going wrong for him not to win the game from that position. It was actually just insane. But yeah, it's can be a very impactful card. Maybe shut off the OTK from DreadEye by getting Silas or the Soulbound Ashtongue, which you can get some pretty big armor totals in this matchup. But yeah, Nalguidan does have ways to pressure, right? It's a very minion heavy deck. There are ways to get additional resources. It does feel like you can get into a position a lot of times as Priest where you're just never running out of stuff. And then when your opponent thinks that you finally run out of stuff, you N'Zoth, and then you get a bunch of stuff back. And that's kind of where this deck shines. Faced with the difficult decision here with the second Draconic Studies. Runaway Blackwing, I suppose, is just the best out of those options. Nixie is usually for specific situations. It does clog up your raised dead pool quite heavily, which you oftentimes rely on in matchups like this where you do need a ton of late game value.
I miss Scorpid. Finds more removal tools or card draw. I don't know how useful a card like Insight is, but I think that the Soul Mirror provides a lot of potential value in middle stages of the game because of the quality of the legendaries that DreadEye has in his deck.
Yeah, there still is almost like no way that Nalguidan matches Fatigue. I mean, DreadEye starts the game many cards ahead in Fatigue, and then has ways to shuffle more cards into his deck to be even further into the anti-fatigue as possible, right? With the Kargath Blade Fist and South Sea Scoundrels, which get him more cards ahead, and then Cthulhu, which it'll shuffle one more card, so he's 5 cards plus. So I think you can get away with Insight, but Soul Mirror is just such high power level. Even when you're playing as Control Warrior, which is not really playing that many good minions, right? You can still get some value out of it at some points.
Yeah, you could shuffle your own Kargath in. Kresh is actually not too bad to Soul Mirror right back.
Yep.
Yeah, there's several things you can do.
Okay, put a powerful thing on the board. Play for tempo early, try and pressure. The biggest thing you can do in this matchup is try and get the warrior to play their removal inefficiently. It's one of the things that warrior tries to do is they try and 2-for-1 with a lot of their removal. They try and eke out a lot of value. Because if you look at the way Priest works, a lot of times they're playing a card and gaining a resource. Like their cards kind of compound on each other. Warrior doesn't have that for the most part, outside of like War Cash. They don't have those additional value generators. So each card they play has a limit on what it can do, and your job in control versus control matchups is to kind of push the limit on what that card is capable of. Try and get the maximum amount of value from each card, and not just see removal, play removal. Right? You want to be able to 3-for-1, 4-for-1, because Priest will outvalue you. Even if you have an advantage in fatigue, you can still just die because they got more out of their cards than you did, and you never even make it to fatigue. So, okay, Bladestorm Rancor or Bladestorm Minefield. Both are pretty tough to use, incredibly situational.
Yeah.
But I suppose the upside of Rancor is much higher, especially with Lord Barav in the deck. You can use that as a combo for full board clear plus a ton of armor. Oh!
Here comes the Mutinous.
Kargath! Oh, that's huge!
That's a really big thing. I mean, Kargath does a lot, right? You mentioned fatigue, you mentioned the armor gain that you can do for shield slam combos late game, or even just have another threat.
Yeah, because it eats it. It's gone. It's gone forever. It doesn't eat it and then it counts as it dies and you still get the death rattle. No, it's just gone from the game. So that's pretty rough. Quite rough for DreadEye. Good news is Mutinous is out of the way. If he can find a way to get enough armor, then maybe he pieces together OTK with Silas still. Bad news is it's in the raised dead pool. It can come back. Also bad news, that 10 armor from Kargath Prime would have been great to stick with the OTK. More bad news, that's just another card in DreadEye's hand that he no longer has access to, and he's starting to run dry on resources. So a lot of downsides and very little upside.
Dragon gonna start off with draw.
Take the hit.
His game plan is pretty straightforward from here, and I think part of the thing that maybe we didn't address was that Priest also could just have too many threats and Warrior doesn't have enough removal. The sheer amount of generation, like Warrior, it's not even good enough for each card in Warrior to 2-for-1, TJ. What? I mean, you gotta brawl that. Do you?
Yeah,
Thinking if there's ways we can do Card of Cthulhu and Rancor. Wins the brawl. Stormwind Champion comes out. Shield Slam, perfect mandate or perfect armor expenditure. If he wants to play other cards as well, could totally just drop the Corsair Cash. But I think, we talked about the fatigue plan. Might not want to incur too many extra card draws here.
The problem with N'Zoth is it's just one card, right? He'd already just played all that stuff and just brought it back with a single card. I feel like DreadEye is going to start to really struggle with his ability to remove the board, because Nalguidan's not light on threats. Not in the slightest. Does have some awkward cards, right? Nightmare could be difficult to use. Soul Mirror as well. The Soul Mirror just there's almost no minions outside of a Crush draw from DreadEye that Nalguidan could even use that on, because that's like the second shield maiden. There's Southsea Scoundrels, but that's it.
One for me.
Okay, here comes the Southsea Scoundrel. Oh, Lord Barov as a definitive removal option. The combo with something else.
Yeah, but then he gives it to DreadEye, which is the problem, right? He's dictating the tempo right now. He's the one that's in the lead, so he just wants to pick the most proactive thing and not give any reactive removal. Well, he drew Lord Barov anyway, so.
Right. I mean, it's pretty likely that they pick it up soon afterwards. You're like kind of seeing what's coming in a way.
I wonder.
I think part of it was that, Nalguidan also feels like having the ability to gain some armor in life might be relevant. You never know if that armor in the Cthulhu situation could end up being something that he plays around. If Cthulhu wants to get 30 clean, you have armor that goes above 30. Just maybe some small little hedges here and there. It's not something that I think amounts to anything impactful right now, but could down the road.
You don't pick the ones.
Very well could. I like Nalguidan playing around styles positioning. He's been doing that consistently throughout the game, putting his more powerful stuff in the middle,
Right.
Wherever possible. I even in practice, I tunnel on the OTK way too much and don't think about the implications of Silas just on regular turns, right? Giving over powerful minions to the opponent. So you can tell Nalguidan, he's focused, right? Because he's he's playing those powerful things in the middle and the weaker things on the side, just to try and make sure it's as hard as possible for DreadEye to get good value at the Silas.
Just needs to put together the shield slam, TJ, and we are cooking.
Yeah, I know. It's close. It's real close. The problem is he's out of removal. He's out of removal. He does have one bulwark charge left, which will absorb the hit from something else, but this is
Guide my hand.
a clinch-worthy moment. Because honestly, like, Nalguidan seems so far ahead. Yes, DreadEye's been able to remove the board, but he's negated so much of the like anti-fatigue that DreadEye has built in, right? They're even in fatigue right now. Obviously, that won't be the case forever. DreadEye still has double South Sea Scoundrel, whereas Nalguidan has already played both of his. So he will equalize the fatigue at some point. But DreadEye could just sneak a win because it is just a shield slam away now from guaranteed win. That coerce pickup is also pretty big because now he gets to have tempo, still keep a bulwark charge, and Nalguidan may not know it, but he should be scared. It's a 1 in 13.
Get it,
one
though.
shield slam left.
He hasn't been playing a lot of cards on the left. The Corsair Cache might be something that he thinks is Silas, or something equivalent to that. Oh, that is
Okay, I mean, if he discovers shield slam, okay. What? All these are bad. Ugh. Not even a taunt minion in the deck. He already has a Corsair Cache. He only has one weapon left in the deck. So there's no point for the second one. It's got to be just Nitro Boost Poison because that's literally the only one that's usable.
Well, Nitro Boost Poison, I guess, is a little bit of damage. Maybe doesn't need the full one shield slam kill, but can piece together damage to the weapons. Totally a possibility. From Nalguidan's perspective, how best to go about extending onto the board here, knowing that he might have to play around that shield slam. He did pick up the Holy Smite, which is very clean.
Yeah, he is safe from the OTK for now, even if Shield Slam were picked up this turn, because of the armor that he was able to gain from Shield Maiden.
Right. Well, that makes sense. More armor gain here.
I think DreadEye might just have to play Soulbound Ashtongue and Silas this turn. Problem is, I don't even know which one you want to steal. Because Runaway Blackwing, you could give the Soulbound Ashtongue over, steal the Runaway Blackwing, either hits the Soulbound Ashtongue, deals 9 damage to Nalguidan, or hits the Plague Protodrake, and then you just gain a huge amount of tempo.
Yep.
But I do think this is the turn to pull the trigger. Because at this point, running out of removal, he's never getting to that OTK again. So he's just got to make use of it now. Still a powerful play. You give your opponent a 1/4, you develop a 4/4, and get to steal a 9/9. Whoa.
Arzax Nitro Boost?
Okay.
Okay, so I think he has counted them, saying that he still can get this done even with...
He can't.
It's 10 damage over 2 turns.
He's taking 17.
So he goes to 21. And the Blackwing will kill off the armor vendor, so it's not like he has to trade into anything, and he even had that covered through Holy Smite. Yeah, I think that it is something that looks a little unusual. Nalguidan has to play a card, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, he has 9 cards. We actually could chill.
The path is clear for the worthy.
Okay. I'm going to score, but it's actually quite big here.
Right, could give a...
Think about... Yeah. Maybe you're supposed to Heart of Cthulhu there first take the draw and then Venomous Scorpion, try and find something like next turn, but I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't want to draw anymore. He's starting to get to the point where he's falling behind in fatigue, which is not where he wants to be. Like, it's still not to that point yet, right? It looks like he has 2 cards less, but he has 2 South Sea Scoundrels, which will equalize it, and then once he plays all the Cthulhu pieces, he'll have Cthulhu shuffled in, so he's technically like 1 card ahead if he's able to play all his cards. At this point, the biggest hurdle is being able to play all his cards. Well, he did it anyway, so he just kills off his Venomous Scorpion.
What's he looking for in terms of card draw? I guess at this point he's on the Cthulhu plan. I mean, we talked about how running out of removal from the Control Warrior side is going to make it very difficult to keep up just with the threats. DreadEye still hasn't even checked 2 threats. It's been on the board for several turns now. I'm not thinking,
Yes.
what is he potentially holding? Now they picked up Mindrunner Lucio. What would he do? Or what would DreadEye be potentially holding that could mess things up? And I don't think there's any reason for him to justify a Mind Render. He's just in a really good position, should use a lot more cards, particularly because he's holding one of the answers to his own board in the form of the Soul Mirror.
So, DreadEye kind of making a joke about drawing Shield Slam now, but there was never a turn in this game where he had a lethal setup with Soulbound Ashtongue, Silas, and Shield Slam. Nalguidan was always slightly above the threshold because he played the Shield Maiden and got to 33. The turn he had 32 armor. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive. There might have been one turn where it could have been the turn we realized it, but I think he was at like 26 armor that turn because he hadn't been able to play the Shield Maiden yet.
Right.
But that Shield Maiden was also picked up by Nalguidan, so it negated the extra armor that he gained from it. Now he has to go for it. Steal the runaway Blackwing. I will heal him as well. Because it's got the Apotheosis on it.
True.
And I like this to guarantee the hit on the Plague Protodrake. Just the most
No, it's good.
which is what he needs to
Will sing.
do. Ooh.
Priestess of Fury?
Yeah.
Yo.
Now Nalguidan could just Soul Mirror. The Runaway Blackwing will snipe the other Runaway Blackwing. Nalguidan could even like heal it up with Renew.
Right.
Raised Dead first is just efficient because it has Apotheosis, so you might as well just take the free damage now.
Yeah, I like the Soul Mirror a lot. I mean, DreadEye has shown that he's using 2-card combos to deal with one of your minions. Does the Priestess of Fury activate before the Blackwing, though, so it doesn't actually get the heal? Not that it matters, but...
They're both end of turn, so it's order of play. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's the Priestess of Fury.
Dumping cards. Interesting.
Yeah.
Guess it makes sense. It's got a lot of card draw.
Scoundrel comes out.
Yeah.
That is a dead card. There are no rushes in his deck. There is the last Cthulhu piece, which I don't know which one it is. There's Crash, Double South Sea Scoundrel, and a Rancor. Those are the last cards for DreadEye.
Just seems like he's going to run out here. And unless Nalguidan kind of fumbles this, he should basically also fade the Cthulhu. Iconic Studies. At this point, putting big stuff on the board is just as effective. Looking at Sleepy Dragon, for example. Just
Yeah, I'm
a
trying to
big
look at
thing.
What knowledge
trying to look at which
belongs to
cards DreadEye can even get from Saucy Scoundrel, but there's also this weird situation where because DreadEye hasn't shuffled Cthulhu in yet, Nalguidan, all he has to do is keep enough health on board so that he doesn't die to Cthulhu, and then as soon as DreadEye shuffles the Cthulhu in, just Saucy Scoundrel it, and then win the next turn.
Go away. When for me, when for you.
Okay. I mean, all these discover a spell. So it's just which
Yes,
one
they do.
values more. Okay, Scorpid because it can 2 for 1.
Yikes. These are all
Barricade, I
useless
guess.
cards, really. Barricade is something for sure to consider. I was thinking about how he envisions getting the Cthulhu damage there, because I think that's his last ability to win, right?
Yeah, but again, the Saucy Scoundrel holds from Nalguidan means that he's got it checked unless he falls behind on board.
Right, but so is there 0 ways for DreadEye to win here?
I'm trying to think. He needs to get above a certain amount of life total. Like, because with Saucy Scoundrel Cthulhu, DreadEye will be able to play the first Cthulhu. So, in that situation. But that would be his whole turn. So he has to get above 24 life. Or maneuver the board in a way to kill Nalguidan with the Cthulhu. But that just doesn't feel like it's going to happen because he has no minions left. He has Crash, which could help him get above. But at this point, Nalguidan also has just a million Discover effects to try and deal with it without giving it that additional armor total over. There's the perfect answer to a Crash. The against all odds.
Oh, jeez. Oh no! The dragon survived! I mean, either way, I think he was considering using Blade Storm, but definitely something that doesn't feel great.
All right.
It's really nothing to consider at this point. Nalguidan uses Saucy Scoundrel, which finds an opportunity for Saucy Scoundrel, which gives him the opportunity to play Saucy Scoundrel number 2 to drop the Eye of Cthulhu. Interesting predicament. I'm kind of down to play the second Saucy Scoundrel, because what it does is it puts DreadEye on the clock to immediately have to do that, and exactly as you described it.
Out of cards.
Yeah.
Insight. Draws a Veil Weaver, which he could play here to ensure that he dumps a card and also maximizes life total.
It's been a weird game. Yeah, so now Nalguidan next turn just plays Saucy Scoundrel, gets the Cthulhu, and then there's really nothing DreadEye can do.
When for me, when for you.
Saucy Scoundrel gonna see if maybe somewhere something. I guess maybe in his mind he hadn't seen Mindrender or Lucia. Maybe there was something there. I don't know. If DreadEye concedes, he knows there's no chance. Nalguidan very decisively smacks down the control warrior. So going into it, TJ, I heard everything you said, and I think that you said a lot of smart things. I also just felt like I came to a different conclusion. I was just like, yep, you're right. These are the things that warrior could do. But I also just feel like sometimes this is what priest does, which is like generate too many threats and force all the removal that's suboptimal from warrior. And then the Zoth ended up coming up pretty big, right? Because all these different minions that came into play forced DreadEye to not be able to save Shield Slam, and had to be able to save Shield Slam, the one that you just saw. Different game entirely, right? Nalguidan would be down to just a low amounts of HP. Maybe the weapon would have finished it. And so it's quite subtle, but the way Nalguidan's priest deck is built is very effective against the kind of strategy. And also goes to show you what kind of metagame people are expecting, right? Because yesterday, on the flip side of it, you know, I think I was being a little bit critical of like the fact that priest is playing a lot of minions and not a lot of spells. And in the faster matchups, you just draw the minions and you just die. But in the slower matchups, it does exactly what you just saw, which is like, this is, I think, in my opinion, the definitive control deck in the game. If you give the control priest time and you give him quality minions, I mean, that's just really hard to stop.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's like a very close to 50-50 matchup. I do think the control warrior with Cthulhu is supposed to be slightly favored, right? Because there were still some opportunities for DreadEye sneak wins despite a pretty poor pan out, double South Sea Scoundrel on the bottom cards, the Find Resources, Crash in the bottom, Mutinous 8, the Kargath Blade Fist, and you don't always curve out that way with minions and priests, right? So it's probably like 51 to 52%, I'd guess, in Control Warrior favorite there. I like DreadEye strategy. It just... I do think that there was some, I will say some inefficiencies with the play, despite a poor draw.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, well, I mean, the Miracle Rogue has been a very efficient and effective tool in a lot of different scenarios against a control warrior. If DreadEye queues that up again, does seem to struggle a lot more just because of the sheer amount of removal that warrior has. It feels like one Rancor cleans up half your cards. So I would be curious to see if Nalguidan can find a way to mount a meaningful, aggressive plan against that warrior. But the other decks, I would be a little bit more worried about, particularly because if outside of that warrior, if your next best matchup is a 50-50 rogue mirror, that definitely does not feel very reliable if you're in DreadEye's position.
No, it does not. Dan, there's this Secret Rogue conundrum. I have this mental block with Secret Rogue that I can't get past. No matter what the stats say, no matter what the best players in the world say, I can't come to the conclusion that this is a good deck. I can't do it. You could show me the 5 best players in the world coming together as a committee and just jamming thousands of games in top 100 Legend with Secret Rogue and coming out with a 70% win rate against every deck, and I would still say, yeah, but guys, it's Secret Rogue. It's not a good deck. I can't get over it. And honestly, most of the time in this situation, I would say, but I'm willing to be proven wrong. I don't even know if I'm willing to be proven wrong. I think if DreadEye has the most one-sided stomp of a game in the history of games right now, it would take a lot more than that to convince me, obviously, with the rant that I just went on. So we'll see, but for right now, I think regular Miracle Rogue is better.
I agree. I think the secret package has a lot of potential, but still a little bit awkward. And I think it has to do with the way you draw. I feel like Secret Rogue has more clunkier draw sequences than the Miracle Rogue does. But it could be just because Secret Rogue is much more prone to combo things, and Miracle Rogue, even though you would love to combo and string things together, is also independently still fine. I mean, when you draw like this, though, DreadEye has Coin, Shadow Juhanar into a Secret on 2. followed by the ability to get some real good stuff. There's an Oh My Yogg, which is immediately standing out to me. Although Pack Tactics ends up working out very well with the Shadow Hanar situation. Ends up going for the most expensive option, Mirror Entity, which also I wasn't sure about because this is a deck that likes to play a bunch of small minions.
Why? He still got the activation. That's a 5-drop.
Wow.
I do like the Mirror Entity pick because the Pack Tactics is good with the Shadow Jewel Hanar, but from DreadEye's perspective, the Shadow Jewel Hanar is gone because it was a bamboozle. Mirror Entity can still be pulled from Spark Droid Sheet. It's not just Rogue Secrets. So it's just like a higher value secret, right? It's like a 50-50 chance for a higher value secret to be pulled from Spark Droid Sheet. And one of the downsides of Spark Droid Sheet is that sometimes you can fall behind on tempo. Mirror Entity lets you kind of make up for that tempo. So I'm still a fan of the Mirror Entity with all those things considered.
I feel like this matchup goes really fast. For the reasons that you mentioned, yeah, it makes a lot of sense to be able to cast it from hand here. So I just for some reason, I feel like surprisingly, it's the least amount of value that you could get compared to Pack Tactics and the Oh My Yogg. But I guess that's very relative, and DreadEye clearly has a vision of what he thinks Nalguidan wants to be doing, especially if he's coming up on turns with Kazakis or other really impactful minions. Nalguidan first tests for a couple of secrets, trades, sees no Oasis ally, plays a spell, sees no counter spell, no Nether Wind portal.
Probably afraid the most of Oasis ally right now. Because that's like the most likely mage secret that he'd pick. He probably would not have picked Ice Barrier, right? Because he's given 3 choices. Not all of the, or and they're not all mage secrets, but he's given 3 choices. Like you would tell me that Ice Barrier would be the choice out of 3. So I think Nalguidan's probably thinking that this is Oasis ally.
We'll cut right to the chase.
Oh. Oh.
I mean, it kills it. That's important. Though he's going to fall behind on tempo now.
He's very far behind on tempo now.
Yeah.
Because the 1/1 taunts, while they're not super great in terms of killing stuff, it creates a ton of inefficiencies in attacks.
Yeah.
And by the nature of every minion can only attack 1 time, you're reducing the effectiveness of even the strongest minion, right? Let's say DreadEye finds a 100 Golem. Going into a 1/1 is going to just make it very difficult for him to race Nalguidan. Who picks up Kazakis? Going to find that Mirror Entity. Would you go for the 1-mana Golem here for the chance of being able to get the +1/+1?
I would say so, yeah. This is one of the best opportunities to try and go for that.
And not find it.
Doesn't hit it. No. Maybe draw a card here? I don't know.
I like.
He has a lot of card draw in hand.
Minion. Yeah, what I like about the freeze is that you're playing like a situation where you might be able to rush down and out-tempo your opponent. And like you said, he has a lot of card draw. He's got Swindle, which is 2 cards. Cram Session for 1. Secret Passage can go for 4. You know what? I don't hate it either. Drawing a card's never really bad. And in the end, you still did something really powerful, which is 1-mana, 1/1, Divine Shield, draw a card. That's still very, very strong.
Give me that.
Yep.
Love what I want.
Certainly is. All right. Taunt, draw 2 cards. What a weird golem.
Give me that.
I think that wins the award for weirdest golem. The only other weird one is like poisonous and then +1 spell damage or something like that, or +2 spell damage. That's also weird. But this one is weird. Taunt and draw 2 cards. Yeah, Nalguidan. This is going to be relatively dead turn compared to what he's had in the past. I actually also wouldn't mind just a Secret Passage here. But it looks like he wants to Secret Passage next turn. Wow, this is a ton of respect for
Yeah, it's a lot of trading.
Octobot. He does. I mean, I tend to respect Octobot a lot less when I'm playing against Secret Rogue.
Why is that?
Because what are they gonna? Because I don't know. It doesn't feel as useful. They don't have field contacts. A lot of times they want to play their secrets via Sparkjoy cheat, so it doesn't matter how cheap those are. They still have the combo damage of like Alexstrasza Wicked Stab, but like it's so much harder to get there. Overall, though, I mean, Octobot's still fantastic, right? You know, Emperor Thorstein was 6 mana, and even though it discounted every card in your hand, so does Octobot, and it's really not that hard to activate.
Give me that.
Nalguidan can draw a ton of the cards. Surprise Plunder, Shadow Stepping, even can play Tenwu. Doesn't need to, although I'm kind of liking the Tenwu with the Cult Neophyte as well.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, maybe you just Foxy Fraud, Prize Plunder, and then pick up Tenwu naturally through a draw and finding a situation for that.
Okay.
This was my original idea, and I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I like this as well.
I mean, these are all cards he's going to keep, right? Oh, finds...
Oh, yeah.
Mancrake's wife! Yeah. It's got to do something. Ambush, Blackjack Stunner, returning Ogre to the hand. I think that puts Nalguidan at full 10 cards. But what a weak turn from DreadEye. It's not nearly doing enough to stabilize him. I guess the Prize Plunder is actually pretty huge. Maybe not actually as bad as it seemed.
He's just out of stuff.
Right, he's just out-resourced.
Yep. Dan, I also just want to point out, the DreadEye in his opening hand had the 3 highest win rate cards when kept in the mulligan of Secret Rogue across every rank.
Yeah. Which is Shao Janar,
Zakis, Shadow Jeweler Hanar, and Sparkjoy cheat. Even had a secret with Sparkjoy cheat. And that secret is... okay.
Care to make a wager, friend?
I think so, yeah. And the Bamboozle is the highest win rate secret when played with Sparkjoy cheat on curve. At least based off my understanding of the data. So...
Okay, so
now that's not the
I
end all be all, right? Yeah, he had the nuts.
He had the nuts, and he still lost.
And that, he played well, right? I don't think there was anything wrong with how he played.
In hindsight, I liked every one of his decisions. Like, when you kind of broke it down, the only thing that was, like, sort of a small thing was, like, whether or not he chose the right secrets, but I think he's handling everything he possibly can. Just not favored, I think, against the straight-up tempo that could be generated. I don't think Secret Rogue is meant to beat the Miracle Rogue. It can, it's just not something that I think you're bringing it to your lineup to designed to do.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, what, Deathrattle Demon Hunter, Libra Paladin.
Things which returning is devastating onto permanent enchantments of any kind, so whether buffs or...
Deathrattles.
Deathrattles, as you mentioned.
Like curved decks.
Yep.
I think it's slightly better against Rush Warrior than Miracle Rogue is, right?
Yeah, true, because they
Miracle
lose the
Rogue.
stats. They lose the stats.
Lose the stats, just tempo, right? They can rush it backwards with tempo.
3-0. Nalguidan starts off his playoff campaign with a sweep, continuing that momentum that we saw in the other regions. It just feels like today might be the day of sweeps, as we have Nalguidan now advancing to play Luna Love in the winner's bracket of Group B. DreadEye, his campaign isn't over yet. He'll be playing Fled in the elimination match, but he is going to be running out of chances very soon. But that being said, based off the way things panned out, I think DreadEye's lineup is just pretty weak to Nalguidan.
Yeah.
Especially by the way things panned out. I mean, it's easy to say now in hindsight, based off that pan out. But even if you just kind of look at a bigger picture, did DreadEye ever really have a chance to take down the Rogue in this kind of state?
Yeah, but the thing you have to realize is Nalguidan, and this is nothing against Nalguidan, I think he made great decisions with this lineup, is literally the most basic lineup you could have. It's the 4 most popular decks over the course of the last 5 weeks. It's Control Priest, Spell Mage, Miracle Rogue, Rush Warrior. That's it. There's a couple of new cards in some of the decks, but it's